There are connections in life that feel accidental, and then there are connections that feel inevitable. You may try to ignore them. You may try to rationalize them. You may even try to run from them. Yet something continues pulling you back, not with force, but with quiet persistence. When the universe intends for two souls to encounter each other in a meaningful way, it does not shout, it whispers, it arranges, it aligns. The first sign is repetition. You meet them unexpectedly. Their name appears in strange places. Conversations circle back to them. You think you have moved on, and yet life keeps placing them in your awareness. This is not coincidence in the ordinary sense, it is psychological gravity. What belongs to your path will not disappear after one encounter. The second sign is inner disturbance, not comfort, at least not immediately. Instead, you feel awakened, old wounds surface. Hidden insecurities rise. You feel exposed, almost unsettled. This is because certain connections are mirrors. They do not enter your life to entertain you. They enter to transform you. When someone activates your unconscious fears and your highest potential at the same time, the encounter carries meaning. The third sign is synchronicity. You think of them, and they call. You dream of them, and the next day something reminds you of that dream. Timing seems mysteriously aligned. It feels as if an invisible thread is coordinating moments. Synchronicity is not magic, it is alignment between inner readiness and outer reality. The fourth sign is growth through tension. The connection may not be easy. It may challenge your ego. It may force patience, humility, and emotional maturity. But instead of breaking you, it strengthens you. You begin evolving not because they complete you, but because their presence invites you to become more whole. The fifth sign is emotional recognition. There is a strange familiarity, as if your soul recognizes something before your mind does. Conversations feel layered. Silence feels meaningful rather than empty. You sense depth, not fantasy, not obsession, but depth. It feels real, even when uncertain. And the final sign is peace beneath the chaos. Despite confusion, despite obstacles, despite unanswered questions, there is a quiet knowing within you. Anxiety may visit, doubt may speak, but beneath it all there is a calm voice saying, "This matters." That calm voice is your intuition. It does not scream, it simply knows. If the universe wants you to be with someone, it will not force the outcome. It will shape you into the person capable of meeting that outcome. Sometimes the sign is not that they appear, but that you are being transformed. Because destiny is not about chasing, it is about alignment. And what is truly meant for you will find its way, not through desperation, but through growth, awareness, and inner readiness. There are moments in life when a person reappears so often that coincidence begins to feel insufficient as an explanation. You try to dismiss it logically. You tell yourself it is simply frequency bias, that once someone enters your awareness, your mind starts noticing them everywhere. Yet the repetition carries a weight that feels different. It is not just visual recurrence, it is emotional recurrence. Their name echoes in conversations you did not expect. Their memory surfaces in quiet moments without invitation. Circumstances arrange unexpected encounters as though life itself is gently redirecting your attention. Repetition is powerful because the psyche does not cling to what is meaningless. The mind forgets thousands of faces, conversations, and passing impressions every single day. What it retains, what it replays, carries significance. When someone repeatedly returns to your thoughts, it may indicate unfinished psychological movement. Something within you has not resolved, integrated, or understood the connection. The repetition becomes an internal signal that there is meaning yet to be explored. Sometimes this repetition occurs externally. You run into them in unlikely places. Mutual connections bridge gaps you thought were closed. Timing aligns in improbable ways. It feels as though an invisible thread keeps crossing your path with theirs. This does not mean every repeated encounter is destiny. But when repetition carries emotional intensity and inner reflection, it deserves attention rather than dismissal. On a deeper level, repetition often reflects resonance. Human beings are drawn to what mirrors their inner state. If someone continues to reappear in your experience, it may be because they embody qualities, wounds, or potentials that are active within you. You are not just encountering them, you are encountering parts of yourself through them. Life repeats lessons until they are understood. If a connection continues returning, Perhaps the lesson within it has not yet been fully realized. Repetition can also be uncomfortable. It disrupts the illusion of control. You may try to move forward only to feel gently pulled back by memory or circumstance. This tension creates awareness. It forces you to ask difficult questions. Why does this person still matter? What part of me reacts so strongly? What is unresolved? In this way, repetition becomes a psychological invitation rather than a coincidence. There is also a quiet law of alignment at work. When two individuals are undergoing growth that intersects, their paths may naturally cross multiple times, not because the universe is forcing an outcome, but because development often occurs in cycles. People re-enter our lives when we are ready to see them differently, or to experience them at a deeper level. Timing changes perception. What once felt confusing may later feel clear. Repetition is not random when it carries emotional gravity, self-reflection, and transformation. It is a pattern demanding awareness. Instead of immediately chasing or rejecting it, one must observe it. Repetition asks for consciousness, not impulse. When something or someone consistently returns, it is rarely to disturb you without reason. It is often there to reveal what your conscious mind has not yet fully understood. There are encounters in life that remain on the surface, pleasant but forgettable. And then there are those that reach beneath the surface of who you think you are. A true connection does not merely entertain your personality. It stirs something deeper, something older, something you may not even have language for. You feel seen in ways that are both comforting and unsettling. It is as if a hidden door within you has been opened, and behind it lies a part of yourself you had long ignored. When a connection awakens the unconscious, it often begins with intensity, not necessarily dramatic romance, but psychological intensity. You find yourself reacting more strongly than expected. Small gestures feel significant. Words linger longer. Silence feels charged rather than empty. This happens because the unconscious mind recognizes familiarity before the conscious mind understands it. It detects patterns, wounds, desires, and potentials that echo your own inner world. Such connections frequently activate old wounds. Insecurity surfaces. Fear of abandonment whispers. Doubts you believed you had overcome suddenly return. This is not a sign that the connection is wrong. It is a sign that it touches something real. The unconscious stores unresolved experiences, and when someone resonates with those hidden layers, they trigger awareness. What was dormant begins to move. What was suppressed begins to speak. At the same time, true connections do not only awaken wounds, they awaken potential. You may feel inspired to grow, to become more honest, more courageous, more emotionally mature. Their presence challenges the version of yourself that hides behind defense mechanisms. You become more aware of your patterns, how you protect yourself, how you withdraw, how you seek validation. This awareness can feel uncomfortable, but it is transformative. Growth rarely occurs in comfort. There is also projection at play. Often, what captivates you in another person reflects qualities within yourself that you have not fully integrated. You may admire their strength because you are learning to claim your own. You may be drawn to their vulnerability because you are ready to soften. The unconscious recognizes these mirrored aspects and responds with fascination. The connection feels magnetic because it represents a part of you seeking expression. True connections also disturb illusions. You can no longer pretend to be indifferent when you are deeply affected. You can no longer maintain emotional distance when your inner world is activated. The unconscious does not allow indifference toward what holds meaning. It pushes you toward confrontation, not necessarily confrontation with the other person, but confrontation with yourself. This awakening can feel overwhelming. You may question your reactions. You may attempt to rationalize them away. Yet beneath analysis lies a simple truth. Something within you has been touched. The unconscious, once stirred, does not easily return to sleep. It seeks integration. It seeks understanding. In this way, a true connection is not simply about companionship. It is about revelation. It reveals the parts of you that were hidden, denied, or waiting. It brings light to the inner landscape you rarely explore. And through that awakening, you are given the opportunity to become more whole, more aware, and more aligned with who you truly are beneath the surface. There are moments in life when events unfold with such precise timing that logic alone feels incomplete as an explanation. You think of someone after weeks of silence, and suddenly they reach out. You dream of a conversation, and days later that exact topic arises between you. You decide to let go, and unexpectedly your paths cross again. These moments feel charged, as though something unseen is coordinating inner thought and outer reality. This is what synchronicity feels like. not mere coincidence, but meaningful coincidence. Synchronicity signals alignment because it reflects a meeting point between your internal state and the external world. When your thoughts, emotions, and personal growth begin to shift, your perception sharpens. You become more attuned to certain symbols, names, patterns, and opportunities. What once would have gone unnoticed now stands out vividly. It feels as though life is responding to your inner movement. This does not mean that every coincidence carries destiny. The mind is skilled at finding patterns. However, synchronicity feels different from random chance because it carries emotional resonance. It stops you. It makes you reflect. It creates a pause in which you sense that something meaningful is unfolding. The event itself may be small, but the impact feels large. It lingers in your awareness long after it happens. Alignment often occurs when you're internally ready for something. When you have processed past wounds, clarified your intentions, or reached a new level of emotional maturity, the external world begins to mirror that readiness. People reappear when you are capable of seeing them differently. Opportunities arise when you are prepared to step into them. Synchronicity becomes a bridge between preparation and manifestation. There is also a subtle harmony in these moments. They do not feel forced. They feel natural, almost effortless. The timing, though surprising, carries a strange sense of rightness. You may feel nervous or uncertain, but beneath that is a quiet recognition. It is as if two timelines, your inner evolution and outer circumstance, have briefly synchronized. Synchronicity also invites awareness rather than obsession. It is not a command to chase, control, or manipulate outcomes. Instead, it is a signal to pay attention. It asks you to become conscious of what is unfolding within you. Why does this event feel meaningful? What part of you responds so strongly? Alignment is not about external validation. It is about internal clarity. When synchronicity appears repeatedly around a person or situation, it may indicate that growth is occurring on both sides. Paths cross not by force, but by shared development. Timing shifts because both individuals are moving toward a point of readiness. In this sense, alignment is less about fate and more about evolution. Synchronicity signals alignment because it reveals coherence between who you are becoming and what is entering your life. It reminds you that life is not only linear and mechanical, but layered and interconnected. When inner change meets outer opportunity at precisely the right moment, the experience feels meaningful. And in that meaning, you sense that you are not drifting randomly, but moving in quiet harmony with something larger than chance. That growth rarely announces itself through comfort. It does not arrive when everything feels easy, predictable, and secure. Instead, it emerges in moments of tension, uncertainty, and emotional friction. When a connection truly matters, it will challenge the structures you have built around your heart. It will test your patience, expose your fears, and confront the patterns you have relied on for protection. This discomfort is not a sign of failure. It is evidence that something within you is being stretched beyond its familiar limits. Challenge forces awareness. When everything flows smoothly, you remain unaware of your hidden insecurities and unconscious habits. But when conflict arises, when misunderstandings occur, when expectations are not immediately met, you begin to see yourself clearly. You notice how quickly you retreat when you feel vulnerable. You observe how defensiveness rises when you fear rejection. These reactions are not random. They are learned responses formed through past experiences. A meaningful connection brings them to the surface, so they can no longer operate in the shadows. There is a difference between chaos that destroys and challenge that refines. Destructive situations diminish your sense of self, leaving you smaller and uncertain of your worth. Constructive challenge, however, demands growth while preserving your core identity. It asks you to communicate more honestly, to listen more deeply, to take responsibility for your emotional responses. It requires maturity, and maturity is never born from avoidance. When you encounter someone who truly matters, they will not simply validate the comfortable version of you. They will mirror the parts that still need integration. They may question your assumptions. They may push you to clarify your intentions. They may refuse to accept half-hearted effort. This can feel unsettling, especially if you are used to relationships that require little self-examination. Yet it is within this friction that strength is formed. Challenge also strengthens emotional resilience. When you learn to remain present during uncertainty rather than escaping it, you develop inner stability. You discover that discomfort does not automatically signal danger. You realize that difficult conversations do not necessarily mean the end. Through challenge, you learn to regulate your emotions rather than being controlled by them. You grow in patience, empathy, and self-awareness. It is easy to romanticize connections as effortless unions where everything aligns perfectly. But real alignment often requires adjustment. Two individuals with histories, fears, and aspirations must navigate differences. This navigation builds depth. It transforms attraction into understanding and infatuation into grounded connection. Growth comes through challenge because challenge disrupts complacency. It invites you to evolve rather than remain fixed in old patterns. It reveals your capacity for change and your willingness to rise beyond instinctive reactions. When you face difficulty and choose awareness over impulse, communication over silence, and courage over fear, you become stronger. In this way, challenge is not an obstacle to connection, but a pathway toward maturity. It shapes character. It deepens emotional intelligence. It teaches you that strength is not the absence of difficulty, but the ability to transform difficulty into wisdom. There are moments when you meet someone and the experience feels strangely familiar, as though you are remembering rather than discovering them. It is not that you know the details of their life or that you have shared history in the ordinary sense. The familiarity exists on an emotional level. Their presence feels natural. Conversation flows without performance. Silence does not create pressure. Instead of trying to impress, you find yourself simply being. This emotional familiarity often signals depth rather than coincidence. Depth is not created through time alone. It is created through resonance. When someone's inner world mirrors aspects of your own, recognition occurs beneath conscious thought. You may notice similar values, shared sensitivities, or parallel life experiences. Even differences feel complementary rather than conflicting. There is a subtle sense of understanding that does not require excessive explanation. You feel heard even when you struggle to articulate yourself. Emotional familiarity also lowers defenses. With most people, you present a curated version of yourself. You filter your words, manage your expressions, and protect vulnerable parts of your story. But in the presence of someone who resonates deeply, those defenses soften naturally. You speak more honestly. You reveal thoughts you normally keep hidden. The connection feels safe, not because it is perfect, but because it allows authenticity. This sense of familiarity can be both comforting and unsettling. Comforting because it feels like home. Unsettling because depth demands honesty. When someone sees you clearly, you can no longer hide behind superficial roles or carefully constructed identities. Emotional familiarity exposes both light and shadow. It invites you to show the parts of yourself that are uncertain, imperfect, and still evolving. Often, this depth arises from shared emotional language. You interpret the world in similar ways. You react to subtle cues with comparable sensitivity. Humor aligns. Values overlap. Even disagreements feel grounded in mutual respect rather than ego. There is a rhythm to interaction that feels intuitive rather than forced. This rhythm cannot be manufactured. It emerges organically when two inner worlds resonate. Emotional familiarity is not the same as fantasy or projection. Fantasy idealizes and ignores reality. True depth acknowledges flaws while maintaining connection. You see their imperfections and still feel drawn. You recognize complexity and remain present. The bond is not built on illusion, but on recognition of shared humanity. This depth often creates a quiet sense of trust. You may not have years of shared memories, yet you feel confident, confiding in them. There's a sense that your emotions will be handled with care. This trust is not blind, it is intuitive. It grows from subtle signals, consistency, attentiveness, emotional availability. When emotional familiarity reflects depth, it suggests that the connection touches something genuine within both individuals. It is not driven solely by attraction or circumstance, but by alignment of inner landscapes. You feel understood not because someone agrees with everything you say, but because they perceive the intention and emotion behind your words. And in that perception, you experience a rare, powerful form of closeness, the feeling of being recognized beyond the surface. In the midst of confusion, attraction, fear, and longing, there is one signal that rises above all others with quiet authority, inner peace. It does not arrive dramatically. It does not silence every doubt or eliminate every obstacle. Instead, it exists beneath the noise. While the mind questions and emotions fluctuate, something deeper remains steady. That steadiness is often the most reliable confirmation you can experience. Inner peace is subtle, It is not the rush of excitement or the intensity of desire. It is not obsession, nor is it the thrill of uncertainty. Those feelings are loud and urgent. Peace, by contrast, is calm and grounded. When you think of the person, even if circumstances are complicated, there is a sense of stability within your chest rather than chaos. You are not consumed by fear of loss. You are not driven by desperation to control the outcome. There is space to breathe. This peace does not mean the connection is perfect. Challenges may still exist. Timing may still be unclear. Conversations may still require effort and vulnerability. But beneath those surface tensions, you feel aligned with yourself. You do not feel the need to betray your values, shrink your personality, or abandon your boundaries to maintain the bond. Instead, you feel more like yourself, not less. Often, the mind confuses anxiety with passion. Intensity can feel meaningful simply because it is strong. Yet anxiety is restless. It demands constant reassurance. It fears silence. It imagines worst-case scenarios. Inner peace behaves differently. It allows trust to grow gradually. It accepts that clarity unfolds with time. It does not rush the process or force conclusions. When peace is present, you can step back without panic and step forward without pressure. This calm knowing usually emerges after self-reflection. When you have examined your motives, acknowledged your fears, and confronted your projections, what remains is either clarity or unease. If, after honest introspection, you still feel a grounded sense of rightness, that feeling carries weight. It suggests that the connection is not merely a reaction to loneliness or ego, but something aligned with your deeper self. Inner peace also supports patience. You do not feel compelled to chase or manipulate circumstances. You understand that what is meant to develop will do so through mutual effort and timing. You trust that forcing outcomes would only disrupt the natural unfolding. This patience is not passivity. It is confidence in alignment. There is a quiet strength in this state. Even if others question your feelings or circumstances seem uncertain, you remain centered. You are open but not desperate. Hopeful but not dependent. Present but not clinging. This balance is rare, and it signals emotional maturity. When inner peace becomes the foundation of a connection, it serves as confirmation not because it guarantees permanence, but because it reflects authenticity. It tells you that you are choosing from wholeness rather than fear. And when a decision or relationship allows you to remain whole within yourself, that calm certainty becomes the most powerful sign of all. And so, if you find yourself questioning whether something is real, do not look first at the noise around you. Do not measure it only by intensity, timing, or outward signs. Look within. If the connection has awakened you, challenged you, mirrored you, aligned with you, and finally brought you back to a place of quiet strength within yourself, then it has already served a profound purpose. What is truly meant for you will not require you to abandon who you are. It will refine you, deepen you, and return you to yourself with greater clarity. The universe does not bind two people through force. It draws them together through growth, awareness, and readiness. And if, beneath all uncertainty, you feel that steady inner calm, that silent knowing that remains when fear fades, trust it. Because when something is aligned with your path, it does not create chaos in your soul. It creates depth. It creates evolution. It creates peace. And peace is never accidental.